Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Kidwell. I am an Education Abroad Advisor here at UA, and today we will be presenting on scholarships and financial aid. With me today I have Carrie Dixon, who is a representative for scholarships, and I will definitely let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Carrie. I am a scholarship coordinator over in the undergraduate admissions office. So if you ever have any questions about if you have a current scholarship and how it applies to study abroad, I would be your point person.
And then we also have Brett from Financial Aid, and I will let him introduce himself.
Hi, yes. My name is Brett. I'm a financial aid advisor with UA Student Financial Aid, and we're kind of the point of contact for any questions regarding any of your federal aid and how it relates to your eligibility to receive it while studying abroad.
And the session will be recorded, so if you don't want your face to show or your comments to be verbal, you can always send them in the chat, and then I can give them to the presenters. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so this is our study abroad website. If you go to studyabroad.ua.edu, there is a financing study abroad tab. Once you click on that tab, whoa guys, sorry, moving my clicker. You'll be able to see that we have multiple sections about financing your study abroad. Undergraduate scholarships and student financial aid are the two sections we'll focus on today. So that's using your current undergraduate scholarships and then using your current student financial aid. If you're looking at applying to additional scholarships, those are these two below: education abroad, study abroad scholarships, and external study abroad scholarships. So definitely read through those pages, see if any of those scholarships apply to you, but today we're focused on current undergraduate scholarships and student financial aid. If you have any questions about these two, we can save them until the end. And then also our Money Matters workshop is every Wednesday at 2:30. All right, undergraduate scholarships.
Yeah, so just like what Sarah said, if you have a current scholarship with the University of Alabama, it can apply towards the program depending on the program and which scholarship that you have. So if you have a merit-based scholarship, for example, it would be a presidential, if you have a national merit, that capstone scholar, any other of those scholarships that you've got based on your GPA and ACT score when you first got admitted, those can be used towards your program. But keep in mind that if you do want to use one of these scholarships towards that program, it will count as one of those semesters. Now, if you have an additional scholarship that you were awarded from your department, you would have to get that approved by your department first for it to be allowed to use towards the program. What we allow is your program has to be approved by the study abroad office. Once you know your program and your semester and the number of hours you're planning on taking, we just request to be in contact with our office and to fill out the scholarship for study abroad request form. The form can be out through your My Bama portal underneath the admissions scholarships tab.
Yeah, so as far as your, as far as your federal financial aid is concerned, just to kind of differentiate between the two, the federal financial aid is going to be like your Pell Grant or your SEOG grant if you have that awarded. And then from there, it's going to be a lot of loan-based aid from the Department of Education. For the most part, all of the aid that you would be eligible for on for a semester on campus at UA, it's going to be translatable to your semester abroad. There are a couple things where your aid can vary just a little bit. The first is based on your cost of attendance. So some of the caps on your award are based upon a cost of attendance that is set forth by the university for what it would cost to attend a semester here in Tuscaloosa. Now, if you're traveling abroad or studying abroad in any capacity, the costs that are associated with participating in that semester could be increased a little bit, or in some cases could be decreased. So the biggest thing in trying to determine your individual federal financial aid is obtaining an official cost sheet, or sometimes you'll see it referred to as a budget sheet. Once you have obtained an official cost sheet or a budget sheet and gotten it cleared with the Education Abroad office, you can bring that to the Federal Financial Aid Office or email it to our financial aid at ua.edu, and we can evaluate and talk about what your individual aid award would be.
All right, y'all, it's time for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but definitely take a screenshot of all of this information. We have our Education Abroad advisors listed there based on your college, as well as our website, and then the financial aid and scholarships emails that you can reach out to them for. So definitely reach out to them if you have any questions regarding financial aid or scholarships, and then we'll go to live questions. And y'all are welcome to ask questions by turning on your video or mic, or you can just send them in the group chat or individually to me as well.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So how do we know how much of the cost for studying abroad at the school that we would be at, how do we know how much of that would be covered by our scholarships? Is there like a flat rate of tuition cost that we can look at to see, or is that like a case-by-case basis?
So it varies from program type to program type. So that we have 4 main program types: faculty-led, affiliates, non-affiliates, and then exchanges. So those are our 4 main program types. For faculty-led programs, it covers the cost of a tuition if it's a tuition-based scholarship. Kind of depends on the type of scholarship as well. So if it's like a stipend or a set amount for a term, then it's gonna vary a little bit on a case-by-case basis. So you'll have to work with the scholarships office just to kind of double check with them. But so everyone's a little different. So I'm going to focus on tuition ones because that's normal that people are referring to.
I should have specified, I'm looking at the exchange program.
Okay, so the exchange program. So it covers the tuition for the exchange program because tuition at UA is the same as the exchange program. You always pay the same tuition for exchange programs.
Okay, so we just be paying it normally like we do through our student billing and student account services?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
You'd still want to do the scholarships form on your MyBama, but it is the same amount of money either way.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm sorry, you said it would be the same like UA tuition price if we did exchange. Would that change if we didn't take a certain amount of credit hours? Would it go down or increase any?
No. Exchanges are only for full semester programs, so it's 12 hours and up. It doesn't really change when you take any less than 12 hours. Well, normally because they don't even allow exchange programs to take less than 12 hours. It's a full-time program. So yeah, it stays the same. When studying abroad, do costs like housing or meal plans at UA get lowered that semester? So I don't know if I'm understanding this question correctly, but you would not pay housing or meal plans that term. You would pay it abroad, depending on what you need to cover, and it varies from location to location, and kind of sometimes from student to student on what's included with housing and meal plans. Any other questions, guys? I have a question for financial aid. Can I use my Pell Grant in the summer?
You can use your Pell Grant in the summer. So Pell Grant is interesting in that it works a little bit different in the summer compared to the fall and the spring. So if you're enrolled full-time in the fall, full-time in the spring, so at least 12 hours in the fall, at least 12 hours in the spring, you have to be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours in the summer to receive Pell Grant. Some of those summer interim study abroad trips I've seen where those are only maybe 3 hours or 4-hour study abroad trips. So it's something to keep in mind depending on how many hours you're enrolled in for the summer. That can be impacted on how much Pell that you can receive, or even if you're Pell eligible. But as a general blanket statement, yes, you are eligible to receive Pell Grant during the summer while studying abroad.
And something to keep in mind is if you do a 3-hour program with studying abroad, and then maybe you take 3 hours on campus, that would equal 6 hours. So just something to keep in mind, especially with our faculty-led programs.
Yeah, and we do see that quite often where somebody will do an interim abroad and then come back to the States and do 3 during either summer 1 or summer 2, like you said, just totaling at least 6 credit hours if you're full-time fall spring would make you eligible.
So someone asked, if you are here on scholarship such as a full tuition or having housing paid for, can that be applied to an exchange program? So I'll let Carrie answer this one.
So you can apply your scholarship, your full tuition scholarship, to the program depending on the program. Typically, if you have a presidential or a national merit, you can apply that scholarship towards that program, but you just need to go through our office first. As for the housing, that cannot be applied since that housing is only for on-campus students only. So tuition, yes, housing, no, and any additional stipends kind of just depends on the program.
And not just for exchange programs, actually. So if you're interested in using them for other program types, you can do that as well. You'll just want to see how those work for each program. Any other questions, guys?
So would the cost of what we pay here at UA for an exchange program, would that tuition cost vary based off of how many hours we take abroad?
No, because it's always going to be full-time for an exchange program. So
Okay.
the full-time tuition is what you would pay.
Okay, gotcha.
That'll always be the same.
Is
Now,
that
other program
range,
types, it could vary.
is that range like, isn't it like 12 to 16 hours? Is that considered full time? Because I know that after a certain point, it adds more, the cost increases per hour that you take.
Correct. I think it is 12 to 16 is full-time. But most students don't take more than 16 when they study abroad. Some universities don't even allow it. It kind of varies. Every now and then I'll get a student who's adamant about it, but most of the time it's not an issue.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I'd say the average amount of hours is 12.
Okay, yeah.
So what about the difference between like in-state and out-of-state? If you have a scholarship, like so if you're out of state, do you get like that full scholarship that you would have at UA, or does it like lower to the in-state version?
Depends on the program. So if you're a faculty-led student and or if you do a faculty-led program and you're an out-of-state student, your scholarship would just max to the in-state tuition rate. So if you have a $13,000 scholarship, the max it's going to cover is that full in-state tuition. Anything remaining is just kind of going to be forfeited. But if you're doing an affiliated program, you would get that $13,000 scholarship. It may not cover all of that program's cost. It may. It just kind of depends upon the program.
And for exchange, it's the same tuition no matter what. So it's the same.
If our major requires like a field placement internship, if we were to choose to do the international field placement, would our scholarships also cover that program cost?
So are you social work?
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, since you're taking a full load of courses that term, it does cover that full tuition like normal. Any additional scholarships you receive that term can be used for the program costs, but normally your tuition scholarships are covering the tuition portion and not necessarily the travel portion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
This might be a question for more scholarships department, but can you apply any sort of education abroad scholarships to housing abroad?
Education abroad scholarships?
Yeah,
So
or just
new
study
ones
abroad
that you apply
scholarships.
for?
Yeah.
Yes. You can, those are just cash amounts normally that you can use for any part of your program cost.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, I have another question for financial aid. If you have are wanting to use your student loans in the summer, do you also have to be enrolled in at least 6 hours?
So yes, to receive any federal aid or federal loans at any point, whether that be a direct subsidized or unsubsidized loan or parent plus loan, you do have to be enrolled at least half time. So I know we just had a graduate student, it sounded like, for social work potentially. Halftime for you is actually 4.5 hours. That standard set forth by the Department of Education is actually a little bit lower, but you would need to be enrolled at least halftime to receive any of your loans. Now, if you are using private loans, sometimes their standards are a little bit different. So I would check with your individual private loan servicer specifically about if you're eligible for those loans if you're less than half time.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a plug for our Education Abroad grant. Our Education Abroad grant is one of the first scholarships listed on our website. It is a 1-page essay, and over 40% of our students who apply receive it. It's anywhere from $250 up to $2,000, depending on if you write towards the impact points that we write on the scholarship page itself. So we tell you what to write about. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. It's a pretty popular scholarship. We encourage all of our students to apply to it.
How early should you start planning for like when you want to go?
The earlier the better. The earlier you plan, the more flexibility you have when it comes to classes, when it comes to planning out your finances, budgeting for your term abroad, as well as figuring out how you're going to get there. So the earlier you plan, the better of an experience it'll be, and it'll give you a little more flexibility. So if you kind of waited till your last semester last year to study abroad, and then like something like COVID happens and you don't get to go, there's not really a backup time. So having a backup plan is something you really learn when you're planning for studying abroad. So the earlier you plan, the more prepared you are. If you are a social work major, a nursing major, an education major, all three of those majors, I would say, are ones that it's the earlier you plan, the better, because your coursework becomes more specific to American standards and harder to find abroad. So the earlier you plan, the better of experience you'll have. If you're a business major, that's most of the time pretty flexible depending on the major. Arts and sciences is typically pretty flexible. General education requirements such as core classes are typically pretty flexible, depends on what you're interested in taking. But the earlier you plan, the better experience you'll have. And the earlier you plan, the more scholarships you can apply for, the more money you'll have for your time abroad. Any other questions? And if you're late joining us, you're more than welcome to ask some more questions. All right, I'll make another plug. There's another scholarship called our Gilman Scholarship. It is a federal scholarship for any student who is Pell Grant eligible or any student who is a child of an active duty military person. Active duty military person. I guess that's how you would say that. So just keep that in mind. If you meet either of those criteria, please reach out to our office. We do a workshop every Friday at 2:30 p.m. where we go over the Gilman Scholarship, what it is, how much you could receive, how to write the best essay. We work with you to edit the essay and make it work for you. And we have a pretty good award rate. So we do really well with our Gilman Scholarship. So the earlier you apply for that, the better. You can actually now apply up to a year in advance. And they're even allowing students, if their programs cannot go due to COVID right now, to use their program, their scholarship money for virtual programs. So that scholarship is anywhere up to $5,000 for a term abroad. So reach out to your education abroad advisor if you have any questions about that. Next question is, do any of the scholarships have time limits for when they can be used? For additional scholarships that you're applying for through education abroad, yes. If you apply for the education abroad grant for spring, then you kind of have to use it for spring. If you don't go though, we do kind of put a little asterisk next to your name if you're moving it to another term, especially due to things like COVID. Now, external study abroad scholarships from major organizations or things like the Department of State, sometimes they can be moved, but sometimes they're pretty strict and just tell you to apply again. Now, scholarships that you receive from UA, I'm not exactly sure how time limits work. I know they have a specific amount of terms you can use them.
Yes, students can use them for they have 8 semesters to use them. If you're national merit, you have 10, but you would have to use it during your undergrad years. Once you've used all 10 or 8, then no more scholarship, just like if you were here on campus. But those also can be used during the summer, but it will count as one of your 8 semesters.
Not sure if this has been addressed yet, but if you were to do like a term study abroad through a third-party organization, we couldn't use our UA scholarships for that, could we? Probably not.
So if they're an affiliated organization, so these ones that we're presenting to you on during our study abroad showcase, yes, you can use your study abroad. You can use your UA undergraduate scholarships. So you can't use those.
To piggyback on that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a UA affiliate to use your federal financial aid. There are other processes that we would have to complete for you to be eligible to use your federal aid in that instance, but that's not necessarily a deal breaker like it might be on your UA scholarship.
Any other questions? I will say here at UA, we're pretty flexible. We want you to be able to get that abroad experience. It's a big goal for our president of our university to have students have that international and intercultural experience. So as long as you work with us, if you're interested in going abroad, we want to help you make that happen. So reach out to us if you have any questions whatsoever. Shoot us an email. Like I mentioned earlier, our emails are listed on this link on studyabroad.ua.edu. We have scholarships at ua.edu as well as financial aid at ua.edu. Pretty much if you add at ua.edu to any department, some type of email will pop up and you'll be able to contact them. So ours is also study abroad at ua.edu. If you have any questions or you're not sure who your education abroad advisor is, you can always reach out to that general email and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Last call for questions. We only have 2 minutes left of our session.
Okay, I have one more question. If let's say we have enough credits where we could technically graduate 2 semesters early, but our scholarship is for the 8 semesters, could we use both of that semester's tuition towards one program, or can you only do like one semester tuition at a time?
Exactly. Yep. One semester at a time. It can be either in summer or full term. There's also credit-bearing internships. So you could do a full semester of credit-bearing internships. Any other questions? If not, we're going to thank Brett and thank Carrie for presenting today. And they will be your main contacts within those 2 offices that you'll probably hear from. But again, the general emails are scholarships@ua.edu and financialaid@ua.edu if you have any questions. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank y'all.
Bye.